Hey, and welcome back to your number one source for cozy gaming and design content. I'm Nick, and I try to release a new video every week about either some cool piece of hardware that you should check out, or something gaming related. If that sounds interesting to you, I would really appreciate it if you would take the time to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and all of that other stuff. It really helps me out with our algorithm overlords. So, now that you've done that, thank you so much again, and today we're going to be taking a look at 5 more amazing games that you can pick up for under $60. So, let's roll that intro. The usual disclaimers with this: there are going to be some games in this video that are still listed as early access. I personally really like the concept of early access, and I'm generally in favor of giving them a try if I'm interested in the game. However, it's never a good idea to buy something based on future promises of what it could be, so I'll just make sure that you know which ones are early access so that you can make an informed decision for yourself. But speaking of those early access games, let's start with... I am a known survival crafting game lover, so if you know that those aren't your thing, this is more of the same. But if you love the genre like I do, and you love checking out the different ways that devs have come up with to freshen up the experience, this is one for the books. Now, this is, like I said, an early access game. But frankly, if they stopped development as is and didn't add or change anything else, this could easily be a $60 game. But they've shown no intention to stop updating the game and expanding on the already amazing offering. If you're someone who won't even consider a game unless it has more than 100 hours of content, you'll love this. They don't, however, achieve this by the same means that so many other games do, by simply adding a bunch of filler content and timed exclusives to keep you coming back. Instead, the actual gameplay itself is inherently engaging and worth sinking hours into. I personally came to this game for the amazing building mechanics, and while there are games that have released since that add really amazing tweaks to the classic formula, namely Enshrouded, I think the level of polish and freedom in Valheim is unparalleled by any other survival crafting game that I've ever played. The graphical style of Valheim is also one of its more unique points. It's got a wonderfully lo-fi feel, and while at first glance it might seem like just kind of muddy and low res, after you actually play and get lost in the world, any thoughts of low quality are thrown out the window. It becomes clear fairly quickly that everything is very much intentional. The models are low poly, and the textures aren't super realistic. But all of that is just because they're taking the Nintendo approach of high stylization over high fidelity. I think this choice works really well in their favor, too. I think if this had just been another hyper-realistic survival crafting game, it would fall back into the sea of other games that look more or less the exact same, and all its unique and interesting aspects would have been overlooked, and the game's other really great strength would have never developed, and that is its community. The community around this game is one of the most important features, in my opinion. I think for a lot of games, the one thing that can either make or break them is whether or not they foster a thriving community. And for a survival crafting game, that should look like a really creatively free and generous community. Valheim has absolutely hit that mark. If you join the Discord, there is no shortage of build advice for people to answer stupid questions about mechanics or how to make a certain idea work. And adding the mod scene to that makes for one of the best, most creative gaming communities that I've ever taken part in. So that's Valheim. I really can't recommend this more if you're interested in all the things that I've just gone on about. However, if you're more of a story lover and want to feel connected to your game in ways you may never have thought possible, for that, you might want to turn to... If you're looking for a game that has an absolute mastery over story, this is it. The devs clearly have such a high level of understanding about how to tell a compelling story, and how to use visuals and audio to really get you into the head of the character. If you want a game that feels like playing a movie, this is the one for you. We follow Senua, a young Norse woman with schizophrenia, on her journey to Helheim to bring back a loved one, and over the course of that, we're given a glimpse into her head. The main thing this game is trying to do is to force you to understand Senua, and not only give you a good, compelling game, but also make you feel what she feels and understand what she's going through. I think these devs have shown that they really know what they're doing. I've never played a game that made me feel the way that this game makes me feel. Now, some critiques of the game point out that after a while, the combat gets pretty repetitive, and there isn't much in the way of challenge when it comes to the game's puzzles after you kind of get the gist of how to solve one. And I would agree with that from 1,000 miles up. However, I do think the eventual mundanity and tediousness of the combat does play into the effect that they're trying to give us. At its core, this game is about the process of working through mental illness and coping with the voices in your head which beat you down. The process of fighting those voices and pushing back against those thoughts is a tedious and repetitive one. And I do think that the combat sections capture this really well. Now, that's subjective, and whether or not you appreciate that is going to depend greatly on whether or not you're willing to give the devs the benefit of the doubt here, but I personally am of the opinion that if a game makes you feel what it wants you to feel, that certainly constitutes success. Now, you may not like what they're making you feel, but I don't think that's a failure on the game's part. And I think Hellblade shows that really well. The feelings of dread, despair, self-doubt, and exhaustion aren't exactly fun emotions to feel, but they add to the experience in a really important way. But ultimately, even if you're not super interested in the more subtextual interpretations of this game and its story, this is video game storytelling done right. And if you appreciate a good video game story, this one is well worth the $30. However, if you like story, but you like to be able to affect the outcome, this next game is going to be right up your alley. And that's... Do you like Fallout New Vegas? Yeah? Well, let me show you a game by the same studio who made that masterpiece. This is a New Vegas-style RPG, which retains that good old Bethesda feel without any of their signature... jank. I personally really love a lot of Bethesda's older RPGs, so being able to pick up a relatively modern game with pretty high-quality graphics, which plays exactly like games of that era for just $30 without a sale, that's an immediate win in my eyes. This is an RPG where your choices actually do matter. The friends you make or don't make will affect the outcome of the story, and there are plenty of unique and totally correct ways to play. Obsidian have shown with New Vegas that they understand RPGs, and this is another amazing showing from them. And if you pick it up now, you'll be buying the upgraded, remastered Spacer's Choice Edition, which just performs and looks better overall. Again, like I said, even outside of the amazing sales that you can get the game for, this is well worth the $30 that they're asking for it. And if you end up really liking it, which I'm sure you will, they have a second game in the series coming out. When it's ready. So you can have something to look forward to after you've played through this one like 5 times. I personally really miss this style of RPG, and having something to play that runs well, plays well, and lets me actually get invested in the story and characters is a welcome change from what I feel like Bethesda are offering these days. Don't get me wrong, I love Bethesda's games, and I'm even a Fallout 76 apologist, but there has definitely been a change in the focus of their games, and they lack a certain appeal to me that I can't quite put my finger on. I used to be able to spend countless hours in their games, but more recently I find it harder and harder to do that. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm changing and not the game. But all I do know is that this game scratches that itch for me. And maybe it can for you too. But now, let's bring it back to my personal favorite genre, survival crafting, with... This is just another charming little game. I covered it in my games video, But this is an example of a charming little soft sci-fi survival crafting game that can give you countless hours of silly shenanigans with your friends or alone. There are some novel mechanics that really do help it stand out from the sea of other survival crafting games, and frankly, it's just a really great addition to the genre. It's way less in-depth than something like The Forest or 7 Days to Die. So if you're looking for hardcore survival crafting, this isn't that. But what it is a nice, relatively chill game that gives you a frankly astounding amount of freedom when it comes to the building, specifically terraforming. I think that is one of the most standout mechanics of this game. I've never played a game that gives you this level of freedom when it comes to the ability to shape the world around you, other than maybe Minecraft. But the system in this is way more fluid and freeform than Minecraft, and I find it a lot more fun to burrow through the ground and stumble onto a big cave or build bridges to get your rover over a big gap that you need to cross. It's somehow super cozy without using any of the typical cozy mainstays like coffee or autumnal vibes, or anything that you think of when you think of cozy things. I think a lot of that comes from the lighthearted and soft world that you inhabit. Your character, while definitely an astronaut, gives off the feeling of being some kind of animated movie character more than a cool, rugged spacefarer like in most space games. It's just a chill and fun world to hang out in. And for me, that's one of the main things that I love so much about survival crafting games in general. The ability to mess around with your friends in a cool, unique world and discover all the things that it has to offer. I highly recommend this game if you're looking for your next survival crafting fix. It's a great chill time, and it's even better with friends. But now for our last game, one that I feel like got a lot of hype before it released, and then totally died down really quick after it came out. And that is Stray has you playing as a cat in a post-apocalyptic world where humans have been replaced by robots, but not in like a "they took our jobs" kind of way, but more like they are the humans now kind of way. The game starts off with you being separated from your group, so you set off on a mission to get back to them at all costs, along the way finding robot friends to help you along with your mission. You get up to all sorts of orange cat shenanigans, everything from solving puzzles by knocking various objects off of high places to getting underfoot and causing your newfound robot friends to trip and drop their stuff. I'm not really getting into the story aspects or the particulars of everything because I really don't think that's the draw here. If you abstract everything away, it's just a game where you push forward and press A every once in a while. So if you're not into cats or you just don't find them very entertaining, one, I don't think we can be friends, but also, this game won't be for you. This is a game for cat lovers, and in particular, cat parents. I would absolutely classify this as a cozy game. It's mostly puzzles with a couple of high-tension running sections, but for the majority of the game, you're mostly just messing around and doing cat things. A lot of the fun of this game comes from that feeling that you get when you see your cat stretch or yawn or do anything, really. So if that's not you, this game will lack some of the fun factor. But if that is you, then you're going to have an absolute blast. And that's all not even mentioning the absolutely impeccable world that they've created here. It's a mix of giant megacity architecture with a cool retro future twist. The robots have an incredibly unique and interesting design, and I just love walking around this slightly overgrown, run-down old world. And that's a good thing, because, like I said, it's like 90% walking around. So I'm really glad they were able to make the environments compelling. And if I'm honest, that kind of gameplay can only sustain you for so long, even if you do really love cats, so it's a good thing that it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a relatively short game, and I think that was probably a smart choice. I am an ardent defender of shorter games, and I'm absolutely willing to spend $60 on a game that only lasts 4 to 5 hours, if I know that that time is spent in a well-crafted world with mechanics that I care about. So paying just $30 for that is more than a bargain to me. Ultimately though, this is a game for cat lovers. If you know that that's you, you absolutely need to play it. It's really an ode to cat parents everywhere. And if your child happens to be of the orange variety, I bet you'll see more than a little of them in this guy as well. But that's another 5 games for under $60 that I think are totally worth your time. I hope there was something interesting here for you to give a try, and I would love to hear down in the comments if you found any of them particularly interesting. But other than that, that's all for this video. I hope you had a good time, and I hope to see you next time. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and as always, happy gaming.